The jungle was dark, even during the day. Giant trees with glowing leaves stood tall, their roots twisting like snakes. Strange animals made loud, echoing cries. The air was heavy and wet, full of buzzing insects and thick fog. Above the jungle, a small silver ship burned through the sky. Its engines were damaged, trailing smoke and fire. It shook wildly, alarms screaming inside. Inside the ship, Princess Ralzari held onto her seat. Her fur was matted with sweat, and her sharp feline eyes were full of fear. She was a Tahrin, tall, fast, and proud. But right now, she was helpless. Stabilizers offline. Crash landing in 15 seconds, the ship's computer said in a flat voice. Ralzari closed her eyes. She thought of her father, her people, and the guards who had died protecting her when the pirates attacked. They were ambushed in deep space. The traitors used a fake distress signal. The guards fought hard, but the enemy was too many. Ralzari escaped in the scout pod, but even that wasn't safe. The pirates chased her, firing until her ship was hit. Now she was falling, alone. With a loud boom, the scout ship slammed into the jungle floor. Trees snapped, dirt flew, and metal screeched. Everything shook. Ralzari hit her head against the side panel. Darkness came quickly. Time passed. Ralzari opened her eyes slowly. Her head throbbed. Her left arm hung useless at her side, broken. Sparks danced from broken panels, and the walls around her were cracked. The air stung her nose, poisonous. Her helmet was cracked, but her suit's filter still worked. Barely. She groaned and crawled out of the broken cockpit. Pain shot through her side, but she pushed forward. She had to leave the ship. Pirates might have tracked her. She needed cover. Outside, the jungle was loud. Giant insects flew past, and strange plants hissed as she moved. Her vision blurred, and her breathing was slow. She stumbled, dragging her legs. She made it 20 steps before falling again. She lay on the ground, panting. Her fur was dirty, her arm limp. She looked at the red sky and whispered, "Help me." But no one came. On the other side of the jungle, a small human base stood between cliffs. It was a temporary outpost, hidden by camouflage panels and shield generators. Inside, Jake Mercer sat at a table, sipping a warm cup of instant coffee. He wore a dusty jacket and had short brown hair, a scar on his cheek, and tired eyes. He was a salvager, searching old planets for lost tech and forgotten ships. "AI, give me a scan report," he said. "Nothing new. Some movement in Sector 9. Could be animals. One energy spike near Sector 12. Possible crash," the AI answered. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Crash?" "Small ship. Recent. Signature unknown." Jake stood up, grabbing his rifle. "I'll check it out." The AI spoke again. "Danger probability, 63%. Recommend caution." Jake smiled a little. "When do I ever listen?" Jake's rover moved through the jungle slowly. The scanner beeped, showing signs of heat and metal ahead. The trees opened into a small clearing, and there it was, the wrecked alien scout ship. Smoke rose from its broken sides. One wing was missing. The other bent like paper. Jake stepped out carefully. He checked for traps, scanned for life signs. At first, nothing. Then, faint readings. Weak. Almost dead. He followed the trail. Crushed plants, blood on the leaves. Not human blood. Purple and thick. 20 meters from the wreck, he saw her. She was lying beside a tree, one arm twisted suit, torn at the side. Her face was strange, feline, with soft fur and long ears. But she was beautiful in an alien way. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Jake knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened just a little, golden, tired and scared. She tried to speak but coughed. "Don't move," Jake said. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand the words, but his voice was calm, gentle. She stopped struggling. Jake tapped his comm. "AI, bring medkit and stretcher drone to Sector 12 now." Confirmed. Back at the outpost, Jake cleaned her wounds. He gave her oxygen through a mask and patched her broken arm. She watched him closely, sometimes growling when he touched a sore spot, but never attacking. She was too weak. She couldn't speak English, and he didn't know her language. But he drew pictures on a tablet, a stick figure helping another. She blinked, confused, then gave a slow nod. Jake smiled. "Okay, we're making progress." He pointed to himself. "Jake!" She looked at him. Slowly, she raised her hand and touched her chest. Zari." "Zari." She nodded. "Nice to meet you," Jake said. She didn't understand, but his tone was kind. For the first time since the crash, Zari felt something strange. Hope. That night, Jake sat near her bedside. She was asleep, her breathing steady. He looked out at the jungle through the window. It was quiet now, too quiet. The AI spoke. "Enemy signals detected. 5 hostiles. Closing in." Jake stood. "Pirates?" "Highly probable." He looked back at Zari. "Guess they tracked her here." He checked his weapons, loaded fresh energy cells, and activated the outpost's defenses. He didn't know who she really was. He didn't know why the pirates wanted her, but he did know one thing. He found her, and he wasn't going to let them take her, not while he was still breathing. Night covered the jungle like a thick blanket. The glowing trees shimmered faintly, and strange insect sounds echoed through the trees. Jake Mercer stood on the roof of his small outpost, holding a pair of night vision binoculars. His face was serious. "AI, any update?" he asked quietly. The soft voice of the AI replied, 5 heat signatures. Estimated distance, 1.2 kilometers. Direction, north-northeast. Movement, slow and careful. Likely armed." Jake sighed. Definitely pirates. Inside the outpost, Princess Zari lay on a soft cot, her broken arm supported by a sling, her body wrapped in clean bandages. Her breathing had improved. She was resting, but not fully asleep. Her sharp feline ears twitched. She could feel something in the air. Danger. Jake walked inside and sat near her. She opened her eyes slowly, sensing his worry. He pulled up a display on his tablet. Using a few drawings, he showed her 5 figures coming toward the outpost. Then he pointed outside, then to his gun, then to himself. Zari's golden eyes widened. She understood. The pirates were coming. She sat up slightly and hissed something in her own language. Her words were fast and full of fear. Then she pointed at her chest, then at the ground, then made a fist and pulled it apart, her way of showing that the pirates would destroy everything if they caught her. Jake nodded. "I figured as much." Zari then grabbed a pen from the table and drew a symbol, a star with 3 dots around it. Under it, she wrote one word in shaky English. Princess. Jake blinked. "You're a princess?" She nodded slowly. He leaned back. "No wonder they're hunting you. You're valuable." Zari tilted her head, not understanding his words, but she understood his tone. Then she pointed at Jake, then at herself, then drew 2 stick figures holding hands. Her meaning was clear. She didn't want him to die helping her. Jake smiled. "Well, too late for that. I'm already involved." Jake spent the next hour setting up defenses. Small turret drones hovered to their positions, scanning for movement. The outer motion sensors were already active. His rifle was fully charged, and backup weapons were ready inside. Zari, though weak, insisted on helping. She pulled herself out of bed and limped to the supply box. She pointed at a compact plasma pistol and looked at Jake. He hesitated, then handed it to her. "You sure you're up for this?" She held the weapon with steady hands and gave a quiet growl. She was weak, but her spirit was strong. The two sat by the window, waiting. Minutes passed like hours. Then the alarm beeped. "Movement detected," the AI said. "North wall, distance, 30 meters. Jake peeked through the scope. Shadows moved between trees. They wore dark armor, faces hidden behind breathing masks. One of them pointed at the outpost. Jake didn't wait. He fired the first shot. A blast of energy lit the night. One pirate dropped instantly. The others scattered, shouting in their own language. Turrets spun and opened fire, forcing the attackers to take cover behind rocks and trees. Inside, Jake reloaded quickly. Ralzari knelt beside the window, aiming carefully. When one pirate tried to flank the side, she fired. The plasma shot hit his leg, and he went down screaming. "Nice shot," Jake said. Ralzari gave a small smile, but more enemies were coming. A second wave, 3 more, moved through the trees. One carried a heavy blaster. "AI, activate shock field perimeter," Jake ordered. "Confirmed." A low hum filled the air, and suddenly a blue energy wave spread around the outpost's outer wall. When one pirate tried to run through, the field zapped him with bright electricity. He dropped, twitching. Jake kept firing, but ammo was running low. Ralzari's breathing was growing heavier. Her wounds were hurting, but she refused to stop. A loud crash shook the side wall. One pirate had a grenade. The blast broke part of the door. Jake cursed. "They're coming in!" He turned and fired at the broken door. 2 pirates tried to rush through, but Jake hit both with fast, clean shots. Still, one more climbed in. From the back window, Ralzari spun and kicked him, then shot him twice. He fell to the floor with a thud. Silence. Only the buzz of the jungle and the whir of Jake's cooling rifle remained. The attack was over. Jake checked the bodies to make sure all enemies were down. Then he slumped into a chair, breathing hard. His face was dirty, and his jacket was torn at the sleeve. But he was alive. Ralzari sat on the floor, her back against the wall. She was pale, and her arm was shaking from the effort. But her eyes were calm. Jake walked over and knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She nodded. "Okay, friend." He blinked. "You said friend?" Ralzari nodded again. Her voice was weak but steady. "Jake, friend." Jake smiled. "Well, I guess we are now." Later that night, Jake cleaned up the mess. He burned the pirate bodies far from the outpost. It was risky, but he didn't want wild creatures dragging them back. Inside, Ralzari was sleeping again. The AI kept scanning the area for more enemies, but the jungle was quiet now. Jake sat at the table, looking at the drawing she made earlier, the symbol of her kingdom. He turned it over and saw a few more words she had written in her alien language. He didn't understand them, but the way they were written told him they meant something deep. He looked at the stars through the window. "Princess, huh?" he said to himself. "What have I gotten into?" The next morning, the sky turned pink. Ralzari woke to the smell of food, simple stew made from local plants and dried meat. Jake offered her a bowl. She took it slowly and sipped. Her ears perked up. It tasted better than expected. Jake laughed. "Not bad, right?" She gave a soft purr and nodded. Then she pointed at the drawing again and said, "Home." Jake leaned forward. "You want to go home?" She nodded. He opened his tablet and showed her a map. "Where's your home?" She pointed to the stars. Then she touched her heart. Jake understood. She didn't know how to explain it, but she wanted to go back. "All right," Jake said. "We'll figure it out. First, we need to get to high ground. There's an old beacon tower in the mountains. I can use it to send a long-range signal." Ralzari looked uncertain. The journey would be hard. Jake stood and offered his hand. "Come on, you're not alone anymore." She looked at his hand, then placed hers in it. Together, they began preparing for the journey. The jungle wind blew gently as the morning sun rose above the thick trees. The outpost stood quiet now, though marks from the battle still remained. Scorched walls, broken wires, and the blackened edge of the entrance where the door had been blown apart. Inside, Jake packed a survival kit. He checked the food supply, reloaded his rifle, and carefully folded a small tent. His eyes kept glancing toward the sleeping form of Ralzari. She had survived the crash. She had survived the pirates. Now she needed to get home. Jake knew there was only one way: the old beacon tower in the mountains. If it still worked, he could send a long-range signal. Maybe her people would hear it. Maybe someone would come. Ralzari sat up slowly. Her arm was still in a sling, but she looked stronger than before. Her golden eyes watched Jake move around. He smiled at her. "Ready for a walk in the jungle?" She tilted her head, not understanding all his words, but she caught the meaning. She stood, still sore but steady, and nodded. Jake handed her a walking stick made from a smooth branch. She tested it, then gave him a short nod of approval. The two stepped out of the outpost and into the wild. The path through the jungle was hard and full of danger. Vines grabbed at their legs, sharp plants scratched their arms. Strange animals watched them from the shadows. Jake led the way with his scanner in one hand and rifle in the other. Ralzari walked behind him, quiet but alert. She carried a small blaster on her hip. They walked for hours, pushing through thick fog and wet leaves. Every now and then, Jake checked the map on his tablet. The beacon tower was still far, at least 2 days away by foot. At midday, they stopped by a small stream to rest. Jake filled a water bottle and handed it to Ralzari. She drank slowly, then pointed at the trees above. "Danger," she said. Jake followed her gaze and saw it. A large beast with 6 legs and green scales crawling along a branch. Its yellow eyes glowed and its tongue flicked in the air. Jake raised his weapon, but Ralzari held out her hand. "No," she whispered. "Too loud." She pulled out a small stone from her pocket and threw it far into the trees. The sound made the beast turn its head. It leapt after the noise and disappeared into the shadows. Jake raised an eyebrow. "You're full of surprises." Ralzari gave a small smile. By nightfall, they found a safe place to sleep, a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The sound of the water masked their voices and the stone walls kept them dry. Jake built a small fire. Ralzari sat beside him, her legs folded. She took out a small device from her suit, a flat, glowing crystal. She touched it, and a blue light appeared above it. A floating image of her home. It was beautiful. Tall towers with shining tops. Wide rivers flowing between silver buildings, flying ships moving through the air. Jake stared in awe. "Is that your city?" Ralzari nodded. "Taharel." She touched her chest. "Home." Jake looked at the glowing city again. "I hope we get you back there." Then she pointed at him. "You know home?" Jake looked down. "Not anymore. Earth's too far. I'm just a traveler now." Ralzari lowered her eyes. She could feel his loneliness. She reached out and gently touched his hand. "Friend." Jake looked up. Her touch was soft, her eyes sincere. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Friend." The next morning, they continued their journey. The path became steeper. Rocks slid under their boots. The air grew colder. Halfway through the climb, the scanner beeped. Jake frowned. Movement. Behind us. Ralzari turned, her ears twitching. They both ducked behind a large tree. Jake looked through his scope. 3 figures moved through the forest far below. "Pirates! Looks like the rest of them found our trail," Jake whispered. Ralzari touched her blaster. "Fight?" "Not yet," Jake said. "We keep moving, but if they get close..." She nodded. "Together." The beacon tower finally came into view late in the day. It stood at the edge of a cliff, tall and made of dark stone, with vines crawling over its sides. The antenna at the top was broken, but the signal dish looked intact. Jake opened the rusty door. The inside was full of dust and old tech. He connected his tablet to the main console. "System's still working," he said. "Might take some time." Ralzari stood near the window, watching the forest below. The sun was setting, and long shadows spread across the trees. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. "Jake!" she shouted. He turned just in time to see a flash. A pirate fired a shot from the trees. The window shattered. Jake ducked. "They're here!" Ralzari returned fire, her plasma bolt hitting the edge of a rock. Jake activated the auto defense. "System!" Old turrets on the roof came to life, scanning for targets. "Get behind cover!" he shouted. The pirates charged up the hill. Blaster fire lit the evening sky. Rocks exploded. Dust filled the air. Jake fired carefully, each shot aimed and fast. One pirate went down, then another. Ralzari stayed low and covered his side, her aim sharp even with one arm. Then, one pirate threw a grenade toward the tower. Ralzari saw it first. Without thinking, she pushed Jake aside and leaped over the device. The explosion threw her back and she hit the wall hard. "Ralzari!" Jake ran to her side. She groaned, her body shaking. Blood trickled from her side. Jake held her hand. "Stay with me." Her eyes opened slowly. "Still here." He turned back to the battle, face hard. "No more games." Jake picked up his rifle and moved like a storm. He fired with skill, moving fast between cover. He wasn't just a traveler. He was a fighter, a survivor. The last pirate tried to run. Jake hit him with a clean shot to the leg. The man fell, shouting in pain. Jake walked over, rifle raised. "Why are you chasing her?" The pirate groaned. "She's the royal key? The Empire will pay for her? Or kill her?" Jake's eyes narrowed. "Not if I get her out first." Then he knocked the man out with the rifle butt. Later, Jake helped. "Ralzari, lie down." He cleaned her wound and wrapped her side in fresh bandages. She was weak, but alive. He looked at the console. The signal was sent. He turned to her. "Now we wait. If your people are out there, they'll hear you." Ralzari looked at him. "You stay?" Jake smiled. "Of course." She closed her eyes, her voice soft. "Together." Jake sat beside her, rifle in hand, eyes on the sky. The night was silent, except for the wind passing through the trees. High on the mountain, the old beacon tower stood still. Inside, Jake sat near Ralzari, who rested on a makeshift bed of soft blankets and thermal sheets. The battle was over, for now. The pirates were gone, but new questions filled Jake's mind. He looked at her peaceful face, her bandaged side rising and falling gently. She had risked her life to protect him. She had called him friend, and yet he still didn't know who she truly was, or why so many were willing to kill or capture her. As the sun rose the next morning, Ralzari opened her eyes. Her golden gaze met his. "Feeling better?" Jake asked. She nodded slowly. "Little." Jake helped her sit up. She leaned on him, weak but awake. "I sent the signal," he said. "If your people are out there, they'll come." Ralzari looked out the window. The sky was clear and blue. She touched her chest, then looked back at Jake. "I tell truth now." Jake tilted his head. "Go on." She took a deep breath. "I am not just princess. I am more." She pulled a small object from a pocket on her belt. It was shaped like a crystal leaf, glowing softly. She placed it in Jake's hand. "This is royal crest," she explained. "Only one in Empire." Jake studied it. "So this makes you—" She nodded. "Next ruler, heir to Tahrin Empire." Jake's eyes widened. "You're the future queen?" "Yes," she said quietly, "but not safe." Jake leaned forward. The pirates. They weren't just raiding your ship, were they? Someone sent them. Ralzari lowered her head. Someone. In court. Betrayal. Jake sat back, thinking hard. So they tried to kill you. Or capture. You. Use you for power. She nodded again. If I die, cousin becomes ruler. He is cruel. Wants war. Jake stood and began pacing. And if they find out you're alive, they will try again, she said. Or lie to Galaxy. Say I ran. Jake clenched his fist. So we're not just fighting pirates. We're fighting your own people, those who want control. She looked at him, eyes full of worry. You. Still help me? Jake stopped and looked back at her. I saved you once, didn't I? She smiled softly. Yes. Then I'll see this through, Jake said, even if the whole empire comes. That afternoon, they worked together. Jake repaired the broken antenna, while Ralzari guided him using her knowledge of ancient Tareen tech. She was weak, but her mind was sharp. As the signal boosted, a light blinked on the console. Jake leaned closer. Incoming message. He tapped the screen. A voice crackled through the speakers, speaking in a smooth alien language. Ralzari's eyes lit up. Tareen ship. Close, she said. They heard us. Jake smiled. Finally. But then, the console buzzed again. A second message. This one was scrambled. Jake frowned. Encrypted. Ralzari touched the screen. As she translated, her face turned pale. What is it? Jake asked. She looked at him with fear. My cousin's ship. He comes too. Fast. Jake felt his heart sink. He must have traced the same signal. She nodded. 2 ships, one to save, one to hunt. Jake sat down. We need a plan. That evening, they sat by the fire outside the tower. Stars slowly filled the sky above. Ralzari looked up and spoke softly. Before pirates, I thought, humans were weak, small. Jake raised an eyebrow. Thanks, I think, she smiled. Now I see truth. Humans, brave, strong, heart big. Jake chuckled. We try, she turned serious. You protect me. No reward, no order. Just kindness. Jake shrugged. It's just who we are. She leaned closer. I not forget. Jake looked into her golden eyes. The moment was calm, quiet, safe, for now. The next morning, both ships appeared in the sky. The first was a large silver cruiser with Tareen royal markings. It hovered high above the cliff, shining like a blade in the light. The second came minutes later, black, silent, and shaped like a hunting bird. Its engines gave off a deep hum, and its weapons glowed red. Jake and Ralzari stood near the signal tower. Her breathing was steady, but her tail flicked nervously behind her. The communicator blinked. A voice spoke, this time in English. Princess, Ralzari. This is Commander Veth of the Royal Guard. We are here to recover you. Ralzari stepped forward. I am here. Another voice cut in, cold and sharp. This is Lord Tarak. By order of the High Council, the princess must surrender. She is charged with abandoning her duty. Jake looked at Ralzari. That's your cousin? She nodded slowly. Jake spoke into the mic. She didn't abandon anything. She was nearly killed in a pirate attack sent by someone inside your own government. There was silence on the channel. Then Tarak's voice came again. Human, this is not your matter. Stand down or be destroyed. Jake looked at Ralzari. What do you want to do? She stepped forward, lifted her head high, and spoke into the mic. I am Princess Ralzari of the Tareen Empire. I live. I did not run. I did not fall. Jake watched as her voice grew stronger. I named Tarak a traitor. He tried to kill me. He attacked my guards. I demand justice. The communicator buzzed. Then came the voice of Commander Veth again. "Understood, Princess. We are on our way down. Stay strong." The black ship above began to charge its weapons. Jake shouted, "Take cover!" A beam of energy shot from the sky, striking the cliff near the tower. Rocks flew, fire sparked. Jake grabbed Ralzari and rolled behind a large stone. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Yes," the royal cruiser fired back. Blue energy bolts slammed into the enemy ship. A battle began above them, lighting the sky with fire and sound. Meanwhile, a dropship from the royal cruiser flew down and landed near the tower. Royal guards in silver armor rushed out. Commander Veth stepped forward and bowed. "Princess, we are here." Ralzari looked at Jake. She touched his shoulder. "Come." Jake hesitated. "I'm not sure they'll let me." But Veth turned to him and said, "The princess has spoken for you. You are under royal protection now." Jake followed Ralzari into the ship. As they lifted off, Jake looked through the window. The jungle grew smaller. The signal tower. The battle. Everything they had fought through. Left behind. Ralzari sat beside him, holding her crest. "You gave me back my voice," she said softly. Jake smiled. "You never lost it. You just needed someone to listen." The royal cruiser flew smoothly through the stars. Its silver hull glowed under the light of nearby suns. Inside, everything was clean and quiet. Guards in shining armor stood by every door. Servants moved quickly, their eyes always watching the princess. Jake Mercer sat on a cushioned bench, feeling out of place. His jacket was still dusty. His boots were scratched. Compared to the others around him, he looked more like a traveler from a forgotten world. Ralzari walked beside him. Her wounds were healing now. She wore a new robe, soft and white, with golden threads running through it. Her head was held high, but she never left Jake's side. "Everyone is staring," Jake whispered. "Because you saved me," she answered. "And they never saw a human before." Jake raised an eyebrow. "That explains the looks," she smiled. "Also, they are confused." "About what?" "You are not soldier, not noble, not warrior, but you still fought. You still protected." Jake gave a small shrug. "Did what I had to." Ralzari placed a hand on his arm. "That is why they respect you, even if they don't say it." Soon, the ship entered orbit around Tahrel, the capital world of the Taurine Empire. Through the large windows, Jake saw the shining towers he had once only seen as a floating image. Long silver bridges connected tall buildings. Blue rivers flowed like ribbons through the cities. Ships of all shapes moved across the sky. The ship landed gently at the main palace. Large gates opened. Rows of guards in silver and blue armor stood in formation. A crowd had gathered, cheering, shouting Ralzari's name. Jake stepped off the ship and followed her down the long stairs. The moment was big, loud, important, but Jake just focused on the one person beside him. Inside the Royal Hall, everything was made of polished stone and gold. Banners hung from the ceiling. The royal court waited, their faces unreadable. At the center stood the emperor, Ralzari's father. His fur was white and his robe deep purple. He looked tired, but strong. His golden eyes were focused on his daughter. She stepped forward, bowed, and spoke. "Father, I return, alive." "True." A soft murmur passed through the crowd. The emperor stepped down and embraced her. "You are home." Then his eyes moved to Jake. "This human saved you?" Ralzari nodded. "More than once." The emperor walked toward Jake. The hall went quiet. Jake stood still, unsure what to do. "You are not one of us," the emperor said. "Yet you risked everything for my daughter?" Jake answered calmly. "She needed help. I couldn't leave her." The emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Then we owe you a debt. Later, in a private chamber, Ralzari sat with Jake. You will not be safe here long, she said. Jake frowned. Why not? My cousin Tarak still has power. His allies sit in council. Some believe his lies. Jake crossed his arms. He tried to kill you. That should be enough. Ralzari looked down. In our court, truth is not always loud. Jake leaned forward. Then let's make it loud. The next day, the royal court gathered again. Ralzari stood in the center. She held up her crest. I am heir. I call for truth. I name Tarak a traitor. Gasps filled the room. Some nobles looked shocked. Others looked angry. Then Tarak entered. He wore black and silver armor. His face was proud and cold. You speak lies, he said. You ran. You faked your death to gain power. Ralzari stepped forward. I was attacked. My guards died. My ship was shot from the sky. Tarak smirked. And your proof? Jake stepped into the room. All eyes turned to him. He played the recording from the beacon tower. It showed Tarak's ship firing first. It showed pirates attacking. It showed Ralzari calling for help. Then came Jake's voice. She didn't abandon anything. The room was silent. Tarak's face turned pale. Guards moved forward. Tarak shouted, He is a human! He has no place here! Ralzari raised her voice. He has more honor than you. The Emperor stood. Enough! All stopped. He looked at Tarak. You are no longer part of this house. Tarak was taken away by the guards. That night, peace returned to the palace. Jake stood on a balcony, looking out at the stars. Ralzari joined him. You spoke for me, she said. Jake smiled. You would have done the same. She nodded. Still, thank you, he turned to her. So what happens now? I prepared a rule. My training begins. And me? She looked down. That is your choice. Jake thought for a moment. I don't belong in courts or palaces. I'm not one of you. But you are important to me, she said softly. Jake looked at her. You helped me when I was nothing, wounded, lost. And now, I am whole again. Jake gave a small smile. Then maybe I'll stay. For a while. Weeks passed. The empire began to change. The people heard the truth. The story of the human who saved their future queens spread across many worlds. Some feared humans. Others wanted to meet them, but all respected one thing, Jake's courage. One day, the Emperor called Jake to his private chamber. You could return to your world, he said. We would give you a ship, wealth, anything you ask. Jake thought for a while. Then he said, I don't want riches. I just want to help. The Emperor raised his eyebrows. Help how? Jake looked out the window. Build peace. Stop. More wars. Make sure what happened to Ralzari never happens again. The Emperor nodded. Then we will give you a title. A voice in our court. Jake was surprised. A human? In your royal court? You earned it. The day of the crowning came. The hall was full. Ralzari walked down the golden path, wearing a crown of crystal and light. Her robe flowed like silver water. At the top, she stood before her people. I was once lost, she said, but I was found, not by an army, not by a hero, but by a human, alone, unknown, and brave. She looked at Jake, who stood among the guards. He reminded me what honor means, what kindness is, and what friendship truly looks like. The crowd cheered. That night, Jake and Ralzari stood on the palace balcony again. The stars look different now, he said. They feel closer, she replied. He turned to her. So what's next? She smiled. A better future. One we build together. Jake laughed. Not bad for a guy who just wanted to explore some old planets. She took his hand gently. You found more than old tech, Jake Mercer. He held her hand tighter. And you found more than just a human.